Hello, Internet. My name is Sir Lord, and today let's talk about removal of content. So, for today, we're going to pose the question of what counts as necessary for removal, what is unnecessary to remove, and what action should a creator take in going forward with removing something. So, for an idea of what I mean by removal of content, let's look at League of Legends first. Okay. League of Legends used to have multiple game modes. It used to have 3v3s as well as the Crystal Scar Dominion game mode. And those were modes that were in the game for quite a while, and then due to their lack of popularity, they were removed from the game. And I'm not just gonna exclusively make it game modes, and it's not exclusive to video games either. You can look at the original cuts of Star Wars, for instance. A lot of the stores and whatnot don't have the original version of the theatrical release. And it's mostly in part to George Lucas just not wanting their considering them not the final product, as he's gone back throughout the years to fix, quote unquote fix, or edit what he thinks he was limited by for technology, and I don't think there's much in the way of story, but I digress. So these are things that were removed either due to creator desire or lack of popularity. Now, I am on the fence on whether or not someone should remove something based on the lack of popularity. Now, if it's taking a considerable amount of server space to take out, then sure, I understand. Like, it's a logistics thing. So, like, the removal of Crystal Scar and 3v3, I can kind of get to an extent. Because for me and my friends, we enjoyed playing the 3v3 game mode. We almost never played Dominion. But the 3v3 game mode was really nice when we only had 3 people and we didn't want to play with randos. So we were really sad to see that go. But then there's also other things that were removed. Like the items, specific items were removed, like Wriggle's Lantern, Smite buffs, stuff like that. And those were removed because Riot had a vision for difference and change. And I don't necessarily think removing an item because it's not built very often is a good excuse to remove it. Um, Things like Banner of Command, for instance. Now, yes, there was an issue with Banner where it became too broken, but like just leave it in its super heavily nerfed state. Now, when they totally rework everything, then it's a little bit more excusable, but there's still items like Static Shiv um, that are sorely missed. Or whenever they rework a champion and you can't go back and play the old champion ever again, I still miss my old Urgot. Like, I know I was one of the few people who actually played him, but man, I just really like Dagger Shooty Boy. Um, but then in the case of Star Wars or like the creator, like, is that on the creator to allow for releases? Because you would think normally that it would be up to or that the creator would want as many versions out there, so then as many people can interact with their story. But if you know anything about George Lucas, he's very much wants to be in control of his products. Now, of course, he gave away control of Star Wars and whatnot, but when he was younger, he was very much on hands with all of the things that he had created. Like, that's partially the creation of Lucasfilm and his self funding of all of his projects. He did not want to be financially uh, dependent on another entity. So he wanted complete creative financial control. So I can respect him for that, and I on that one I don't see as much fault with it. Yes, it's very sad that we can't get the theatrical release or any of the different cuts or edits of Star Wars, because it's just like a really nice thing to look at. As the it would be really cool to look at the history and progression of Star Wars, but it is what it is. Then we have other kinds of removal. Let's look at Pokemon for this. So this one is more of a removal due to logistics. So when they went from Gen 7 to Gen 8, this was the first time where they were saying, hey, we're not going to have the full Pokédex unless you get, or we're not going to have the full Pokédex. And people were livid. They were pissed about it. Now, on that one, there's like 800 or so Pokemon, so I kind of understand like not giving them all at once. They did add more and more as they released expansions and DLCs, but I can definitely understand both sides of the argument. It was a huge, huge debate, and neither side was doing very well. Like, it was a massive, massive online war. But on that one, it's like you have kind of a responsibility to let people continue with their stuff. Because, like, their Pokemon kind of are theirs. Like, it's hard to quantify what is their own property, right? Because technically, they went out, they grinded the whatever it is, they paid the money for the game, and being told that, hey, you can't use that anymore, that's very, very tough for the person who went out, grinded those hours to get that shiny all octillery or whatever shiny it is. Like, that's gotta feel tough to be told, hey, you can't use that, or it's gonna have to stay there. Now you can leave it in Pokemon Home, but they come. But even then, like, you want to use it in the new game, but no, you have to buy the new game. Then you have to hope it's in the new game. If not, you have to hope it's in one of the DLCs. And if it's not in one of the DLCs, well, better luck next time. And that's just tough. Tough, tough, tough. And I get that making the 3D models is time consuming, but like if you know about Sword and Shield at all, you know the game doesn't look that great. Like, that game was rushed out. I wouldn't doubt most of it was putting in the engine, so I'm guessing that most of the games post Sword and Shield will look a lot better. I mean, you can look at Legends Arceus, which is not the best looking game, but still it's leagues above Sword and Shield. And then the new game actually figured out what a texture is on Pokemon. Like, what? Game Freak? Textures? Mind blowing. And it's crazy to think about that. Like, Game Freak, for the Black and White, for instance, beautiful games. Beautiful. Yes, they are sprite based, but the sprites themselves and the Pokemon look so animated and alive. They're moving around, they have their animations, they'll like hop around and then they'll do whatever their signature thing is. Like, I think it's Girder will no. What I think it's Girder will flip his steel beam. I could be wrong on that. But I know they'll flip their sticks or weapons or anything like that. They'll spin them around, they'll flap their wings, or they'll glow. Like, they did a lot with very little. That is one thing Game Freak was very good at, was maximizing efficiency with very minimal tools. Like, you can see it in how they would make the Pokemon move. They would do all sorts of, like, they would segment the sprites so that they could move the individual pieces, and then they would shrink, grow, or flip, or do all sorts of like rotations and whatnot. So then they didn't have to animate each individual thing. They could just move the parts, making it significantly easier. Like, if you are in game design and you are creating sprite based images, I would highly recommend looking at how Pokemon did it, because they had like what, almost 700 Pokemon when they were doing Black and White, because it was 493 plus 150 something. Yeah, so about like 650 ish, roughly, could give or take a little bit, but they had 650 ish for Black and White, and they made them all look amazing, like fantastic even. But I'm getting super off topic. Um, yeah, so removal of content. So then we also have the instance, we'll go back to League of Legends for this, when they give a graphic design update or a visual overhaul on a champion, including things like voice lines, for instance. Someone bought stuff or skins for that champion based on how it looked at the time. And then they update the champion into a new visual update. And what if the person doesn't enjoy how that character looks or sounds anymore? So, example of this is, I'm not too into the voice acting or the visual change of the Caitlyn redesign to fit with the Arcane series. I have not seen Arcane, but I very much preferred the visual design as well as voice of old Caitlyn, and it makes me really not want to play new Caitlyn. But I had bought a skin for Caitlyn, and it's totally different. It's not even close to the same, and I don't like using the skin anymore. Like, I kind of wish I didn't have to have that skin. It might sound like I'm complaining, but I understand. I bought it like a jillion years ago, and it's nice of them to update it for free. So there's like two sides to that argument. There doesn't seem to be a right or a wrong in terms of what should people do, or should people allow for the uh, or should developers keep both in. It's tough. It's tough. I think with the old champions, they should keep them in the game, but maybe disable them for like ranked and whatnot. Like, they won't change for balance patches. They'll probably be underpowered. Probably like 45% win rate would be ideal. Because it would be really nice to play some of these older champions again. Like, Urgot, man. I wish I could still play Urgot. Like the old Urgot. Or Aatrox. Oh, Aatrox was a big one. Because he was so fun to play. And I'm just not into the new Aatrox. Like, I don't touch him. And my boy Mundo. I'm okay with how he plays. I just can't get behind them making him sexy. Like, I wanted to play as this blob amalgamation weird mutant guy. And now he's that but sexy. And I didn't want that. Like, I don't play him anymore because of that. Like, he used to be one of my favorite champions. And now he's unplayable. And it's sad. I kind of just wish that they would give original skins. They used to do that, actually. So you have like Sejuani, Trundle even. Trundle used to be like a scrap, like gross looking troll with like gross pillar stuff. Yeah, his rework changed, quote unquote, how he played. He pretty much plays the same, but like with a lot of quality of life updates, thank goodness. But he pretty much played the same. He just looks a lot better, sleeker, but you still have the option of playing with his old skin. Same with Sejuani. Now she has like the fully armor clad one, which is the old school, or which is the new version. Or you have the old school version of her, where she was just in a metal Viking, like berserker bikini, which is funny to me, but whatever. You can play either one and it's just fine. I like the Portal Rider skin to be specific, but what do you guys think? Do you think people should Do you think that the developers should just completely remove content from their games, or they should deny older releases of their films? Or do you think it's a little bit better to kind of go in a middle ground, or do you think it should just not be removed and they should make new everything? Um, Let me know in the comments below what you believe and give me examples of things that you've lost that you really miss. My name's been Sir Lord, and let's talk again.